But be that as it may, no. I mean, I'm good. I'm healthy. I'm safe, and really like you, I'm just ready for football. Thankfully, we have football Thursday night between the Cowboys and the Buccaneers. So I'm just excited about this upcoming weekend and being out of area once again.
You can also hear Darren Smith on Sunday mornings, I guess his time, The Ship on Sports Radio, 8:10 on Sundays. All right, let's get to it.
Go ahead. Sorry, just let me jump in right quick. So because we do a pregame, I've moved from Sundays to Thursday nights following the Thursday night football game because we have a 3-hour pregame show that we do.
Gotcha.
So, and you didn't know that. It's just something that we just did this week. So
that's all right. No problem there. I'll put it up. I got it off your Twitter feed, so I guess the Twitter feed hadn't been updated yet, but that's where I got all the info at. I didn't want to bug you because I know you're going through this whole time, but it's great to have you on again. We're on the Facebook. It took me a second to get on Facebook, so let me redo it here. Darren Smith, Kansas City Radio, covers the Kansas City Chiefs, has the pregame shows, covers the Chiefs. Been doing it for a long time. Darren and Sterling show weekdays on ESPN Kansas City Radio as well too for ESPN. All right. You mentioned Tampa Bay and Dallas. Let's get to that first. Let's do a little review on that. What was your take on the game last night? 31-29, Ryan Suckup with the game-winning field goal. In fact, you might know Ryan Suckup. He used to be a Chief for crying out loud. So Ryan Suckup, a good kicker, kicked the game-winning field goal. But I thought Tampa Bay, even though it was a good game and Dak Prescott looked great, in my opinion, I thought Tampa Bay probably had a bigger margin that they should have won by. You mentioned the point spread. They were an 8.5 point spread, but I just think that two interceptions, a Ronald Jones fumble, bad tackling on the passing attempts by Prescott. They stopped the run game, but I thought Tampa Bay probably had a bigger margin to win by, and I didn't think it was going to be that close based on what I saw to Dallas's defense yesterday.
Well, let me say this. I think both teams left a lot of points on the board. Obviously, we know about the missed kicks from the kicker, the extra point and the field goals. Just like there were missed opportunities on Dallas' side. You mentioned Tampa Bay, obviously, towards the end of the ball game, who was it? Chris Godwin should have gotten to the end zone, or at least gotten, with the first and goal and having the ball punched out. That was a turnover. That was a costly turn. They could have cost them the game if the Cowboys would have been able to capitalize on it. Obviously, they didn't, and we saw what Tom Brady did. Obviously, 4 turnovers, which is uncharacteristic of Tom Brady and the Bucs. Now, one of them was, of course, the end of the half. So you just nobody's really gonna fault you on that because you took a shot at the end zone. But the fumble that the Roe Jones had, can't have that. Obviously, Leonard Fournette is not really a catching running back, but you put it up there and touched his fingertips, and he didn't catch it. So of course that was an interception. That's something that you can't have. And so the fact that they played a Thursday night, I know for Tom Brady, he's going to make sure when they get back, to the facilities that they clean a lot of that mess up because they had I think 11 penalties as well. So it wasn't really a clean game, so to speak. And because of that, they've got a lot to work on. But it was still a good win for Tampa Bay. I will say this: Dallas showed me a lot because they were a lot better than I expected them to be. Because I thought that without Dak playing and practicing much and then playing in the preseason games, and Ezekiel Elliott didn't do anything in during the preseason, I think they were much better than what I expected them because I expected them to be blown out. I expected the score to be over, but I expected a huge margin of victory for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the fact that it went down to the wire the way it did was shocking.
Let me ask you about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers real quick. From your impression last night, the run defense has been very good the last 2 years since Bruce Arians has come over. I know he's an offensive coach, but their defense, I think that was more of the running game not being successful on both sides. It looked like Dallas's front seven played well. Their secondary is still struggling a little bit. And Tampa Bay had 2 injuries in the middle of the game that really hurt them from the standpoint of the passing game. I think Mike Edwards went down, and then Murphy Bunting, and a starter from last year's Super Bowl team, also went out too. You think that had an effect on Dak being so successful? And what do you think about Dak coming out in his first game after all this time off?
Well, again, as I mentioned before, Dak, I thought Dak was outstanding. I mean, I had no idea, if I knew he was going to throw for 52 times and complete 44 passes for a touchdown, I would have, had a bigger parlay going for him. But be that as it may, I think, I think when we look, we got to take things into perspective. Dallas decided to not run the ball. I think they initially tried, but Vita
Right.
Vey, being back, being back there, and that front seven is the truth. I mean, and they were the top. They were the top of the NFL defensive list last year for a reason. And so once Dallas felt like they could not run the ball, they had no problem, just putting the ball in Dak's hands. And look, and this is a passing league, so I don't think Kellen Moore has any problems whatsoever for Dak to throw the entire time if that's what it takes, if that's what they feel like it'll take to win. Again, there were some missed opportunities. CeeDee Lamb, he can't have that many drop passes like he did because that's not going to bode well for the team. And yeah, he had some good highlight plays, and he did. I think he did score a couple of touchdowns. But when it mattered most, he dropped passes at the wrong possible time. And so, I thought Dak Prescott looked very good, and I want to see whether or not they can carry that over to the next game against the Chargers.
Last thing about the game last night, did you think, a lot of conjecture on Twitter and all over social media, OPI or no OPI?
They didn't call it, so it wasn't OPI. That's how I look at it.
Oh, is that how we go with it? Okay, he didn't call it. All right.
Hey, man, I'm old school, man.
I got you. Can they? You know what? I haven't seen the rules this year. Can they challenge? Pass interferences anymore? Or they took that out.
No, I think
after the Drew Brees deal a couple years ago.
Yeah, no, I think they only did it just that 1 year.
Okay, yeah, that was horrible to hear. All right,
got such a blowback. Plus, it was stopping the game. It would stop the game.
Yeah,
so they just took it out.
I'm Vasu Vaddiparty. This is a conversation with my guest, Darren Smith. We're sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Cupertino, Silicon Valley's longest-running British restaurant and pub since 1981. Check out all your NFL and NCAA football Saturdays and Sundays, as well as during the week specials. They're celebrating their 40 years in Cupertino. BritanniaArmsDeanza.com, 408-252-7262. I don't know if they pay me. I think they pay my bar tabs, Darren. So I guess you're coming out here to Cupertino. Next time the Chiefs come out here, whenever you come out, I guess I'm going to take you to Cupertino near Stanford and buy you an adult beverage. I guess that's how I get paid for my sponsorship here.
Now, how far is that from Los Angeles?
From Los Angeles, it's no, I'm in Northern California. I'm in San Jose, so it's about 4.5 hours. Not this year, but maybe if you come out and play the 49ers in the next couple of years, we'll have to continue this on because I just learned some information about Darren Smith before we got on the air that is not for this show, but we'll figure this out anyway. All right, let's get to it here. Appreciate your time again. I know you just got off the air, so we'll get to this. The AFC West, Denver Broncos, Chiefs, Raiders, Chargers. Chiefs been to the Super Bowl the last couple of years. Denver's got a new quarterback with Teddy Bridgewater. The Raiders have Monday night against the Ravens, who have just been, boy, the poor Ravens. I mean, I don't want to feel sorry for professional teams, but boy, losing running backs and then Gus Edwards, their backup running back, goes down after Dobbins goes down. Marcus Peters goes down on the defensive side. I don't know how much. I'm not a big Marcus Peters fan anyway defensively, but he played well for them. And then the Chargers, the up-and-coming Chargers. You saw Justin Herbert twice last year. Their defense wasn't very good. They got a new coach, Brandon Staley. I'm very high. I've seen every one of his games at Oregon, and I saw all his games last year. I'm very high on Justin Herbert. I'm very high on Brandon Staley, helping out that defense and helping Justin Herbert not have to put the pressure, put 30 points up a game. Your thoughts on the AFC West overall before we get to the Chiefs specifically?
I will say that for me, the team that I would say, I'm not saying I'm looking over my shoulder that I'm worried about the most or anything like that, but I think the team that has the best chance of being runner-up to Kansas City is going to be the Denver Broncos. I believe in their defense, and they still have some holdovers from the Super Bowl team, including Von Miller. I believe that they've improved even with the addition of Patrick Surtain. Now, granted, I would have probably liked for them to have gotten a franchise quarterback, in Justin Herbert, but they decided to go with Surtain, which is fine. But I think Teddy Bridgewater is going to be a good holdover for them. I wasn't a believer in Drew Lock. I know he's a local kid here in Kansas City, but I wasn't a strong believer in him. The Denver media wasn't as well, but I believe Teddy Bridgewater, he's not going to lose you ball games. He may not win it, but he's not going to be the cause of you losing the ball game. So, with the offense that they have, if he can just be consistent and make some plays and the defense puts him in position to win, I like them a lot. Now, I don't know a lot about the Chargers' new head coach. Now, I am interested to see because he did like the Rams head coach, Sean McVay, not having their starters play in the preseason. My question is going to be, how is that going to affect, their conditioning and stuff when they get to live action on Sunday. So I'm not I'm not. Yeah, I was just talking about this. I can't remember who the Chargers play Sunday, but I
They play
think I have them
Washington.
winning.
They're at Washington on
Washington.
Sunday.
Yeah, I think I have them winning, but and that's only because I don't believe in Fitzpatrick.
Fitzmagic, yeah.
Yeah, now the defense is the truth. So it's gonna. But if the Chargers now the Chargers got a good defense as well with both out there. But if it boils down to quarterbacks, I'm going to trust Justin Herbert this time around. Plus, it would allow me an opportunity to watch and see this new head coach of them, and then that way I can kind of come up with my own opinion on this team once I see him. Once I see the starters play in his new offense.
I guess Darren Smith of Kansas City Radio, Kansas City pregame show, 3 hours starting this Sunday. It all gets going for real for the Chiefs against the Browns on Sunday afternoon, the late game, 3:25 your time there, 1:25 out here on the West Coast, and all over the Jim Nantz and Tony Romo game, I guess is the best way to put it. The Chargers, Brandon Staley came from the Rams, so it's not surprising that he didn't start his starters. He was on the staff of the Rams, and he has all Sean McVay stuff going for him from that standpoint. So that's probably one of the reasons. Let me ask you this, just from a philosophical standpoint. They went down to 3 preseason games this year. A lot of teams combined their practice weeks against their opponents for combined practices. Do you think, Coach? I don't think the coaches really care about the game so much, but I think they probably got all the work they wanted in non-game situations in the practices, both in the combined practices and in their private practices too. You think that makes a difference versus playing the games, or are you still wondering about how the game action is going to be for these players?
No. Nothing can simulate game speed except for playing in the games, and so that's one of the good things about Andy Reid is that he doesn't believe in joint practices, and so they'll the ones go up against each other, and then he will have his players play in the preseason games, and how long they play is dependent upon just how well they play during the preseason. But no, to me, doing joint scrimmages, of course, we kind of saw during the offseason some of the fights and stuff that took place between those teams. Nah, I don't believe it. I mean, I guess it's cool if you're a fan, but covering the team, I don't think you really get anything from it because you're still not putting any basic plays or anything out there, and and you can't touch the other team's quarterback. So, I mean, to me, it's a waste of time. I'd rather just wait till the game, and then that way you just send everybody out.
Yeah, but from a fan standpoint, and this is the last point on that, from the fan standpoint, watching these preseason games is very vanilla, and a lot of guys don't play anyway, and that's part of the problem with it. And I think the practice time ends up being more valuable for the team itself from a coach's standpoint. And it could be wrong. We'll see how it goes this year. It's the first year we've had 3 preseason games, so maybe week 1 won't be as good as it would be in week 4 or week 5. So Darren Smith, our guest here. I like Denver. I like Teddy Bridgewater. I don't know if they have a running game. Their defense seems to be pretty good. Raiders, Derek Carr, offensively, they're really good. Defensively, they haven't stopped anybody in 100 years, so I don't know what's going to happen there with that. And I still like the chart. I'm a big Justin Herbert guy, and I think he's got weapons around him offensively. Defensively, we'll see what they can do against that running game. Washington has a pretty good running game, so we'll see in week 1 what they can do. And then they got to protect Justin Herbert. They got a new offensive line set up for him against that front 4 for Washington. So that's going to be an interesting scenario there for the AFC West. All right, let's get to the AFC as a whole, the contenders outside of the Kansas City Chiefs. First of all, talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, how you think they're going to be different from last year and the year before. Do you think they have a shot to get in there for their 3rd straight Super Bowl appearance?
I'll answer the last question first. Yes. As it relates to if they're better on paper, they should be better because this offensive line, to me, has been upgraded. Granted, you got 5 new starters. 2 of them are Pro Bowl players on the left side. The other 3 are rookies. But if their pedigree from their college days or anything, then the expectations of what to expect from this team is good because they have the right mindset. Creed Humphreys, never gave up a sack when he was at Oklahoma. When he was at Oklahoma as a freshman, starting freshman alongside Orlando Brown, they were voted the top offensive line in college football. So, that means something. In fact, he was available in the 2nd round, and Dorito, of course, is going to snatch him up. Trey Smith, of course, being a rookie in a 6th round draft pick, only gave up, I think, 1 sack, maybe 3 at the most, I believe, during his college career at the University of Tennessee. that says something. I mean, he could easily play tackle, but because we got Lucas Niang and you got Orlando Brown, now you got a large 6'7", a 6'6", 6'7", 345-pound right guard. Nobody's moving that man against his will. Then, of course, you talk about Lucas Niang. Chase Young himself said that Lucas Niang is the best lineman that he ever faced. He was in college, and Lucas Niang didn't give up any sacks as well. So, we saw Tampa Bay expose Kansas City's offense, basically just expose the team. There's the rash of injuries that they had. Brett Veach, the general manager, and Andy Reid addressed that in the offseason. This is going to be, I think, the best team that Kansas City, as it relates to, top 53-man roster. I think this is going to be the best team that they've had over the last 3-4 year span.
Where else from the Kansas City Chiefs 53-man squad from last year that didn't get through the Super Bowl, where else do you think their biggest improvements were from last year to this year besides the offensive line? Because we all saw what happened in the Super Bowl.
To be honest, I think the biggest move that Brett Veach made in the offseason was bringing in Darren Reed, defensive tackle as a free agent from the Seattle Seahawks. And I say that might be the biggest move because it allows Chris Jones to not play defensive tackle. Now he can move over to defensive end. But because he's that athletic and that good, there will be situations where he'll play, defensive tackle next to Darren Reed. So what that does is that allows Steve Spagnuolo now to start moving pieces around on the defensive side of the ball to where he can play players in other positions that they might be able to be good at. Now, they may not do it the whole game, but there will be play scenarios where, let's just say a Colin Saunders, who's a defensive lineman, lines up at linebacker, and which he did during the preseason. So there are opportunities that I think defensively that will present itself. If Kansas City can get off strong offensively, now you allow the defense to, do a little bit more gambling, do a little more challenging things on the defensive side of the ball because they take those chances because they have a big enough lead where they can go after the quarterback.
Our guest, Darren Smith of Kansas City Radio, Kansas City Chiefs pregame show every Sunday, co-host of the Darren and Sterling Show weekdays on ESPN Kansas City. We appreciate coming on right after the air. I appreciate this. Let's get to the AFC contenders. Who's going to play the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, or who's going to lose to the Chiefs in the Kansas City based on you saying they're going to the third straight Super Bowl?
For some reason, everybody's got Buffalo and or the Bill. Excuse me, Buffalo or Cleveland going. But
what do you think about Buffalo?
I don't. But
really,
okay. Yeah, everybody's high on Josh Allen, which is fine. Everybody. That's fine. I guess we got to have somebody. You got to face somebody. But the team that I think will actually beat them, because I don't think Buffalo face Kansas City because I don't think Buffalo wins their division. I think the New England Patriots will end up winning their division.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I think the fact that they've got their defensive players back. I think out of the 8 that opted out last year, 7 of them are back. I think one of them ended up retiring. And with the upgraded offense, you're not going to expect or ask for Mac Jones to win your ball games. You're going to ask him to not lose your ball games. And so if Belichick defense is anything like they were a couple of years ago, the year that the Chiefs won Super Bowl, when they started off 8-0 before running into the Baltimore Ravens, I think Mac Jones could do well enough to where he can lead that team to the division title. Now, I'm not saying that they will get to the AFC Championship game to beat and face off against Kansas City, but I can see that happening. But if I had to just pick a team, I would. I guess if you just want to be just media hype, I guess I'll say Buffalo. So it's not going to matter because the game's going to be played at Arrowhead. And so.
Right. What about anybody else in the AFC? Anybody else in the AFC you like?
If Cleveland can live up to the hype, I just don't know whether or not they'll be able to live up to their star billing, so to speak, when it matters most, later on in the season. I think the addition of 17 games will challenge teams mentally as well as physically, because health is going to be an issue. But yeah, I don't think Indianapolis Colts, like I said, Steelers, not so much. So yeah, I guess I'll just join in everybody else, Buffalo and Cleveland. But
what do you think about Tennessee? If Tennessee can improve their defense, they added Julio Jones. They had 30 points a game last year. Derrick Henry in the backfield. I don't know how healthy Tannehill is coming off COVID, but I really like Tennessee. I think they're in a good division to win.
No, I like Tennessee as well, and that's actually my fault because I know the Chiefs play Tennessee on October 24th. So let me take that back. I will say that I think Tennessee could also, again, health is going to be a factor.
Yeah.
But they were able to get to Kansas City without Julio Jones. So if everybody plays well and their defense steps up, I think they have a credible shot of getting to the AFC Championship game as well.
Let's move on here a little bit. The NFL. Let's get to the college stuff a little bit here. The Big 12. You're in the Big 12 area. Texas, Oklahoma are going to defect to the SEC. 4 new teams just added into the Big 12 in a few years. I know we can talk about it in a few years when it actually happens, but this college movement and everything going around, I know it all has to do with the money and has to do with the competition. I don't even think it has to do with the competition, because why would you go from a championship conference to an SEC team that's going to get blown out by Alabama unless it's not the money? But what's your read? I mean, you're in that area. I don't know how much you heard about it, but Texas, Oklahoma, what do you think of? I think teams in the Big 12 are going to play Texas and Oklahoma like a Super Bowl, because they're saying, oh, you're leaving us because you think we're the stepsister or the stepchild of the poor type of thing. I just wanted to get your take from somebody that's in the Big 12 area, because we don't talk to a lot of Big 12 people.
Well, I cover KU football and basketball, so I'm into, I know all about this. But I'm sorry, I'm sitting there looking at my damn daughter like, what doing with her boyfriend on Instagram. I'm not happy about that right now.
14 and have a boyfriend? Uh-oh.
No. She's in college at Vanderbilt.
Oh, okay, all right.
Cross my thing. I'm not happy about it. But
damn, you're young looking. You got a daughter in college? You're young. Are you kidding me? Really? Wow. I'm impressed.
Yeah, she's a junior. She's going to her senior year now. But to answer your question, I mean, they'll play them, but the fact is, talent-wise, Oklahoma, I think, still has the best talent in football. So, I mean, you can play them like a Super Bowl, but Oklahoma they'll still probably win the Big 12 championship for the 7th straight year. Texas, I still think, Texas, it is Texas. Their money runs long. I mean, even though they're going to the SEC, we were talking about on the show today that some think that they won't leave out until 2025 at the end. Right. I just don't know. I just think they got enough oil money, they got enough alumni where they'll pay whatever $75-80 million to get out, so they can join into the conference next year. Because look, at the end of the day, do you really want to be on at 11 o'clock a.m. on ESPN? Right. You can be on CBS or if it is ESPN, you can be on prime time, facing off against Alabama, CBS. I mean, so those are big games. I mean, like, those are some big. Now, granted, ABC is big as well and stuff, but just a level of competition. I think, and if you want to be the best, because the one thing about Oklahoma, they've been in the college football play, but they've yet to win a game there. So that's not something to be happy about or be bragging about. So I'm not mad at the move. Obviously today the Big 12 is. What's been the reaction
of the other Big 12 teams, basically, because they're kind of bailing on them, and that's the kind of the notes I've read. Bob Bowlesby and everybody talking about, oh, they're leaving us type of thing for the glamour or whatever.
Well, I mean, they're fine because today they just accepted, the membership. I'm not sure when it's supposed to start. BYU, Cincinnati, UCF, and Houston. So,
and UCF also.
Yeah, that's what I said, UCF and Houston. And so, I think for the Big 12, it's big for them because now they're still relevant. And so BYU is probably looking to come in 2023. Maybe Houston and UCF or Cincinnati looking to come in 2024, and then perhaps UCF. But the buyout for those teams, I think, with their contracts and contract, I think it's only like $10 million. And if the guy wanted to be an angel, I think Lorenzo Fertitta, who's owner of the Rockets, and of course, I don't know if he's still part owner of UFC. He may have sold his shares or whatever, but he sits on the board of regents at Houston. He could easily write a check for all of them to just go and be there next year. Whether or not he does it or not, I mean, I don't know. But but he may want something in return. But if he does that, I'm like, give him what he wants.
Yeah, well, that's a different show for a different time, but he ought to write a check for their defense, honestly, for the Rockets. So we'll figure that out as well. All right, Darren Smith, our guest of Darren Sterling Show, weekdays, ESPN Kansas City. Also, the Kansas City Chiefs 3-hour pregame show every Sunday or whatever day they play on, but a 3-hour pregame show. Let me ask you this. We talked about it on the earlier show, 20th anniversary of 9/11. Where were you? What are your memories of it? I'm sure you talked about it a little bit. I know ESPN does all these specials on radio and on TV. Just kind of your quick thought here on that day. And now we're at 20 years. I can't believe how time's flown by and how you were that day and what your memories are of that time.
Well, it's interesting. I was in grad school at Lincoln University, and this was, of course, we had an overflow of enrollment. So the school had put a few of us up at the Ramada Inn at the hotel, and so when I woke up that morning on the 11th, I had I wake up early, so I'm watching Morning Joe at that time. And so just watching it, and I seeing the planes. I remember very, very vividly watching the planes go into the towers. You initially think it's a movie, and you're like, oh, holy hell, this is real, and that we're quote unquote under attack. So of course, you go outside the hotel, and you're making sure nothing's coming here, but because we're in the Midwest and in the middle of the heart, you've got it's going to be hard for an enemy combatant to fly overseas or whatever, get to where they're trying to do, it's something like that. So, say that I was at the hotel. I mean, I was glued to the television all day long. I'm pretty sure I had pizza that day and just stayed in my room, stayed in the bed, just watching new stuff all day and just couldn't believe it. I mean, I remember seeing video footage, live footage of people jumping out the building to the death. It's hard to wrap your mind around that type of stuff. Because I mean, we've seen it. I mean, hell, we just saw it just last month with Afghanis, climbing on the airplanes and then just falling to their death. I mean, that's just stuff that you never want to see. And so that's my thoughts about it.
Yeah, the NFL doesn't.
I try to think too much about it. So
yeah, no, I know the NFL does a good job in their remembrances and their celebration. I know the NFL is doing a big thing, and I know probably the Chiefs will be involved with that too. I remember I was in the corporate world at that time, and I was in human resources, and I had to comfort other people while trying to comfort myself. And I'm on the West Coast, so I didn't see it live. I saw it on the local news, and then all of a sudden, when the tape delay came on later on, I was like, this is holy hell. Like you said, this is holy hell we're going on. All right, I'm going to end on a fun note before I let you go. Our guest, Darren Smith of Darren and Sterling. I know we talked about your you play fantasy football?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give you my roster anyway. I'm going to see what you think here. Tyreek Hill, Darren Waller, Raheem Mostert, Russell Wilson, Sony Michel, Robbie Anderson, Cortland Sutton, Team Buffalo for the defense. I couldn't get Kansas City. I wanted Tampa. Ferkshire is a backup tight end for Tennessee. Hines, the running back from Indianapolis. Koo, the kicker from Atlanta. Zach Wilson, my backup quarterback. Austin Hooper, another tight end. And Mark Ingram, because there was nobody else left in round 14. What do you think of my roster going into week 1?
I mean, your starting lineup sounds good. I mean, again, I don't know anything about fantasy football. I'm more of a gambling than a fantasy type person. So I'm going to presume that that's at least offensively on your starting lineup, you should be good with Tyreek Hill and Russell Wilson. I can't really comment much further than that because I just don't know.
No, I'm all right. I'm all right with that. I got you. Well, we'll have you on our other show. The Make the Money and Run podcast comes on 3 times a week, talk about sports and the sports angle. And I'm sure you've seen some of it on Facebook when it pops up on your deal. We're sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Cupertino, Silicon Valley's longest running British pub and restaurant, celebrating 40 years in Cupertino. Our guest, Darren Smith, a conversation with Vasu Vaddiparty. Darren, I appreciate the time. Hang on for a second. Hopefully we'll do this again during the season. We'll get you on. I appreciate you coming on right after you get off your air on your airwaves. It's really nice to see you, and we really appreciate the time. We will talk to you soon. Take care.
Thank you.